Hey everybody, C. Rogers here with Open Design Studio, and today we're going to be answering a question about projecting a texture onto a complex mesh, maybe one that we don't want to UV unwrap. As an example, we have this great mesh by Baba Kaif. Uh, Baba Kaif. I'm not really sure exactly how to pronounce your last name. I apologize if both of those are wrong. But anyway, we're going to take this amazing mesh that he's made of this, um, what is it, Squid Game mask. And where he's got the rectangle or square here, we're going to just paint it onto the mesh instead of having it be a separate solid object. That would be more true to the way that it is in the series. So to do that, of course, the first thing that we need is one of these nice rectangles. I've made this one in Inkscape. You can use Photoshop or Illustrator, whatever you have. Nice thing about Inkscape is it's free and open source like Blender is, so that is the one. It also has this nice rectangle tool where you can make rectangles of various sizes, etc. Mine is black over white. I'm going to show you how to invert that in the node editor for the material in a little while. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the same color that is going to be on the mesh, just so you know. Just as long as we have a square in this case. So what I'm going to do is take let's see, where are we? Oh, yes. Okay. We've got this mesh here, and we're going to start by bringing our 3D cursor to the front where this mask is. And to do that, I'm going to just take the snapping here, and we're going to snap to face. And then just click here so we can see that if we rotate around, we can see that brings our cursor here. Just so we can see the empty that we're going to bring in. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to use an object, in this case an empty, to position our graphic on the surface. So you can kind of think of the object as a projector. I'm going to show you two ways to do that. One using the UV project modifier, and the other just in the node setup. So of course, to shade something, we go into our shading tab for convenience. Baba has already provided us with this nice material for the mesh. So we're just going to add to that material. The first thing we're going to do is add our texture and image texture. Just going to open up, let's see, going to go home and all the way down to our rectangle. Open. We're going to connect the color to the base color here. And you can see that is trying to map it to the surface, only it doesn't look quite like we want it to yet. We're going to fix that. First thing we can do is, well, okay, there are two ways at this point to fix this. One is to use the modifier. This modifier is the UV project modifier. So if I just add a UV project modifier here, it's going to take the default map, UV map for the object, which is fine. That's exactly what we want. But we need an object here to use as the projector. So that's why we moved our 3D cursor here. We're going to add an object to serve as our projector. And it's going to project along the x-axis. So just to make it easy to see where the the z-axis. So we can choose arrows. So add empty arrows. That will add us this nice empty here. You can see the z is located kind of like pointing up. And what that does is when we go to our UV map or our UV project modifier here, and you can see there's this little eyedropper tool here. You can actually just click that and choose our empty, or you can actually choose it out of a drop down of your current objects. But you can see right away that actually makes it kind of a little bit better. Not too bad. It's still not quite where we want it to be. It's projecting it down the z-axis. That's why it's kind of like a stretched out rectangle. What we want is to point the z-axis either towards or away from the point on our mesh that we want to project it to. And in that case, or in this case, it's actually this area right here. So I'm going to go to the side view here just by clicking Y to go side view. We're going to select our empty, G, grab to bring it up. We're going to move it until it's right on here. You can see I still have snapping on. We can actually turn that off. We don't really need that right now. So actually, let's go around and make sure it's still, yeah, okay. So that looks pretty good. We'll go to Y. And now we're going to rotate this just with R. And since we're in side view, we can just rotate it. We don't have to choose an axis. And we're going to get Z to where it's kind of like sticking directly out of this curve. So right about there. So you can see that if you continue this line along here, this angle right here is going to be about the same as this angle here. That's how you know that this, the z-axis is, what do they call it, tangent or perpendicular to the surface, the curved surface here. Once we have that, it's going to be projecting, you can see it's actually projecting directly down the z-axis. So when we get the z-axis here right down the middle, we can see that it does look quite square. The more we rotate this, the less like a square it looks, but it's going to be fine because we are going to shrink it down. And how we shrink this down is really easy. So we're going to just hit the S key. We've got our empty selected, and you'll notice that this actually shrinks it down to where we want it to be, about to the same size. We're going to get rid of this. I'm just going to hide it. And you can see it makes this nice square there. From the front, though, it still looks a little bit like it's warped. So we kind of want, instead of from this angle, we kind of want it to project from the front, just like directly from the front, so that people looking at it see more of a square. And again, what we can do is just go back to the Y. Oops. And we will just drag around our X. Okay. I guess that kicks you out of orthographic mode. Doesn't really matter anyway. We're just going to take this and put it more right here. You'll notice that this is being a little bit slow. The second way that I'm going to show you is a little bit faster. It'll let us tweak things a bit more in a fast manner. So we're going to bring this up a little bit. Right. So yeah, that's already looking a lot better from the front. From the top, you know, it is a little bit distorted, but from the front is kind of what we're interested in anyway. So let's go ahead and shrink it down to about there. So we've got this issue where it's kind of tiling at the area where our original texture ends. It repeats. So if we don't want it to repeat, what we want it to do is to extend the white area that's around so that it is just white and black. So what we do that then is change repeat to extend, and now we've got just our projected square on the front. And next, oh yes, right. So since I made this a black rectangle on white, I'm going to show you how to invert that in this case. You're just going to add a a texture, no, sorry, color RGB invert. Yeah, so invert right here. And now we've got our white on black. So that looks pretty good, actually. Um, at this point, you could call it a day and just parent this object, your empty, to this object. So when you move this, the empty moves with it. So we'll do that real quick. We'll select both of these. Um, select your empty first and your mesh second. So parent this to this. Right click and choose parent and object. So now when we move this around, we'll G, it moves with this. We got this other problem where this isn't actually parented. So I'm going to parent this to this as well. And again, we just right click and parent. You can also hit P if you want. But if you don't like to remember the hotkey, it's just right click and then choose parent and object. So now when we select this and move it around, it's going to move this with it. Okay, well that's all well and good. How do we do it with just nodes? Because this is a little bit slow. I mean, moving things around. Anytime you move this, it's gonna just kind of chug along. So you can do it this way, but let me show you a faster way, or at least a less hardware intensive way of doing this. So let's go ahead and first of all, we will get rid of our UV project node here. You can see we're kind of back to this interesting art deco mask here. We'll go and what I use usually is the Node Wrangler add-on. The reason I do that is because you can select your texture, and if you hit Control T, it will actually add mapping and a texture coordinate for you. Quickly, I'll show you how to add that if you want to. So if you go to Edit and Preferences and Add-ons and do a little search for Node Wrangler, it'll come up as like the third option. Just tick it, and then you'll get that nice Control T thing. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. I'll also show you how to add these. What you need to do is add a mapping node. So the first thing is a vector and mapping. And we need an object reference. So we're also going to add an input texture coordinate with an object output. So this will give us, this will take the coordinates, the X, Y, Z, and rotation and scale of our object here. We'll plug it into vector, which is all three of these. And we'll use the vector here to map our Squid Game rectangle. Right. So, yeah. Object, right. So now we haven't mapped it to the empty yet. So again, just take this little eyedropper and click on empty, and we've got our rectangle there. So you'll notice that it's not quite centered in the middle. That's because with this method, it takes the I think it's the bottom right of the texture that you use and uses that to map the rest of it. So this is actually mapping the corner of the texture. We'd rather have it in the middle. So what you can do is just use these location values, and we'll just move it down here and over until it's centered like it was before. And at that point, you can also use scale. If you're going to use the scale value here, I recommend adding a value node. So if we add input and value, then we can plug that into the scale, and it's going to modify all the dimensions at once. So we don't have to worry about it stretching out or having to do each individual ones. And then you can scale it up or scale it down this way. Kind of nice. You can also use the empty to scale, and you can see how much smoother that is. Like, remember, it was kind of chugging along, and you can like move this around, and it's not going to slow down your pathetic computer like mine is. This is just a laptop, so it's far from the beefiest thing out there. Yep, that works pretty nicely, pretty smoothly. And also, when you're moving your mask around, it also has that nice smoothness to it. So this is actually the method that I recommend doing. It's a couple extra nodes, a little bit more work than the UV project, but this is also more flexible too. You can have multiple textures mapped to this object this way. All you need to combine them with a mixRGB node. And you can have like a circle or a square. You can also swap out the this for like a circle or something. So if we go to here and choose this, now we've got a circle mask, right? Or if you want to take, let's see, all this stuff, we'll just copy all of this, Shift D, and we'll move it over a little bit. And notice that it's still using this to map the texture, so we'll fix that in a second. But now we've got this texture mapped to two different things. So we're just going to click this 2 here to make a copy of our material, such that we can change the object to our other new copied empty. And then we can also click this 2 to make this a single user copy, and then that's so we don't accidentally change the other one as well. And we'll choose our circle here, an open image. And now we've got 2 masks which are, different, and you can add a triangle or whatever else you'd like to as well. So very clean, easy way to texture map something that is not easy to map. Anyway, I hope this helps, and happy blendering.